man, there ain't nothing like twisting the night away.
He was combing his hair on stage. God is so with a mirror. Wonderful. And man, the preacher was going crazy. He can't do that in this church. No, no, no.
Sam had received a phone call that brought him to that motel with the girl.
Why Sam Cooke was kicked out of the Soul Stirrers. This secret will change how you see him forever.
It ended up that Alan Klein actually owned Tracy, whereas Sam didn't, and Sam was under the impression that he owned her.
Whispers followed him everywhere. Some said he stepped too far outside the lines. Others believed he was chasing something bigger than the church could hold.
During the funeral, Johnny Morissette, who was on the label, kept crying. He was like this. I'm sorry, Sam. I'm sorry, Sam. I'm sorry, Sam. Kept saying this.
But what happened next would haunt music history forever. A late-night encounter, a strange scene at a motel, questions that still have no answers, and a legacy that somehow slipped into someone else's hands. Decades later, the same question remains. Did Sam Cooke simply die, or was he silenced?
There will be peace in the land.
Before the record deals, the swooning fans, or even a single pop hit, Sam was already that guy. Church girls were whispering his name like a secret. He wasn't just talented, he was magic. By the time he hit 14, he was already fronting the highway QCs like he owned the mic. And just a few years later, he pulled off what most folks wouldn't even dream of, stepping into the lead spot of the Soul Stirrers, the gospel group everybody looked up to. Now, these weren't your average Sunday choir boys.
Oh, Jesus, gave me water.
The Soul Stirrers had been flipping the script way before Sam rolled in. They started out down in Texas and basically redefined gospel by adding an extra member, just so the lead singer could go off, get emotional, stretch a note like it was made of elastic. It was gospel, but with feeling. Like real feeling. The guy Sam replaced? Rebert. A total blueprint. Smooth like blues, dramatic like theater, and bold enough to sing gospel like he was pouring out his whole life story. People stole from his playbook for years. He didn't just sing songs, he made them feel like confessions. And yeah, he co-wrote a few of the group's biggest tracks that church folks still hum under their breath when no one's looking. But behind all that holy harmony was a whole lot of mess. Rebert started noticing the backstage wasn't exactly matching the sermons. Let's just say the lines between praise and pleasure got real blurry. He dipped right as the group was leveling up, low-key fed up with all the drama behind the holy curtains. It was like the lights dimmed on one era, just as Sam was getting ready to shine. And then Sam showed up, soft-spoken and clean-cut, like he had no business being that good. RB clocked him while he was still singing with the QCs and decided to bring him in. At first, folks weren't sure. He didn't sound like someone who'd seen hell and clawed his way back. His voice was too smooth, too polished, almost too pretty. But that was the magic. He wasn't trying to sound tortured. He was gliding. His voice felt like satin, with runs so silky they didn't just hit your ears, they wrapped around you. That iconic whoa whoa ow. Yeah, it started right there, in church. And suddenly, everything flipped. The group wasn't just some respected gospel act anymore. They were the show. Packed churches, people crying, women passing out, teenagers showing up just to stare. Sam didn't need to break any church rules. He just had to open his mouth and it felt like something was shifting. Songs like Touch the Hem didn't just feel spiritual, they felt magnetic. This was church, but it had swagger. It moved.
Oh my God! People were screaming at there. Even me, I was jumping up and down. Oh my God, this guy.
But the thing is, that voice wasn't built to stay boxed in. Sam loved gospel, sure, but he wasn't trying to play it safe forever. Deep down, he wanted more than hallelujahs and high notes.
And Sam had a way of emphasizing whoa, 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 and he'd slap his side like that. When he hit his side like that, the ladies fell over like 10 pins.
He wanted black men on stage who could be soft and smooth, who didn't have to shout to be felt. He wasn't trying to be the next screamer. He wanted to be something new, something that didn't exist yet.
One particular fella wasn't really a Christian, and I don't think he went to church too often. And Sam was singing, and all of a sudden he jumped up and said, "Sing, damn it, Sam, sing!"
So yeah, he tried to sneak it. He dropped a love song under a fake name, Dale something, hoping people wouldn't connect the dots. But come on, that voice? Everybody knew. The secret didn't last long, and just like that, Sam didn't quietly switch lanes. He lit the match and walked across the line, leaving the old world behind like it was yesterday's sermon. To the old heads at church, it felt like betrayal dressed in a nice suit. R.H. had spent his whole career trying to keep gospel clean, formal, bigger than any one singer. He wanted it to stay sacred, untouched by ego or industry. And here came Sam, making it feel personal, polished, a little too seductive for Sunday morning. Pastors didn't know what to do. Some were mad, some confused. But the kids, they didn't wait. They followed him straight out the door. So when Sam finally dropped the disguise and stepped away from the group for good, it wasn't a surprise. The damage had already been done. Some people felt like he broke the church's heart. But Sam wasn't just being messy. He was reshaping everything. He gave black men in music permission to be soft and magnetic, without having to shout or perform pain to be heard. This wasn't just some dramatic exit. It shifted the whole sound. He took gospel's emotion, added pop's smoothness, and built something entirely new. Something real enough to cry to and cool enough to dance to. Love songs with depth, breakup songs with grace. He didn't leave gospel behind. He dragged it with him and gave it a new outfit.
He did not cotton well to people saying, "No, you can't," or "No, don't do this." That just was not in his vocabulary.
But not everybody forgave him. When he tried to step back into gospel a few years later, the welcome was ice cold. People who once treated him like royalty barely looked his way. To them, he wasn't the boy wonder anymore. He was the guy who switched sides, and some of those cuts never closed. When Sam dipped, they tried to keep it together. They brought in new voices, Johnny, Willie, Martin, but none of them could escape the double shadow of R.H. and Sam. The past was too loud. That legacy? Heavy. It lifted them up but also kept them stuck. They sang on, released projects, stayed active. But the spark? That thing that made you freeze when a note dropped? It lived in the tension between R.H. trying to keep it clean and Sam daring to make it feel like something else entirely. That push and pull? It changed the whole game. Sam didn't just leave the church and chase hits. He redefined what a gospel boy could become. He turned praise into presence, made holiness share a stage with heartbreak, gave a sound built on Survival Room to be sexy, moody, and stylish too. That's why some folks saw him as a problem. But that's also why he never left the conversation. He didn't just break a mold, he built something new from the pieces. And that's what made him dangerous, but also untouchable.
Sam Cooke had a huge influence on music itself, and of course he had a huge influence on us at Motown.
Sam's first solo single under his own name, You Send Me.
Oh, you send me, darling.
It didn't just do well, it really took off. Somehow it crossed over and topped both the R&B and pop charts, which wasn't something black artists saw often at the time. Usually, a white version would show up and steal the spotlight. But Sam's voice was too smooth, too natural. People knew the real thing when they heard it, and no glossy cover could match what he did. From there, the hits just kept coming. I'll Come Running Back to You.
Just call my name, I'm not ashamed.
Only 16.
And I was too young know.
Wonderful World,
And I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this would.
Chain Gang,
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Cupid,
Cupid, please hear my cry.
It was one after the other, but Sam wasn't trying to be just another guy with radio play. He wanted to actually own what he was building, so he started making moves behind the scenes. He launched Cag's Music to hold the rights to his songs and teamed up with his gospel-era mentor, J.W., to start SR Records. That label gave Bobby Womack, Johnny Taylor, and others their first shot. Sam wasn't just thinking about now. He was setting himself up for the long run. While most artists were stuck in messy deals, he kept full control. By the time he signed with RCA, he was in full command. Songs like Twistin' the Night Away and Bring It On Home to Me kept him charting over and over. 29 top 40s in total. But even with all that success, something in him was starting to shift. He'd mastered the music game. Now, he wanted something deeper. Sam was everywhere. He wasn't just making hits anymore. He was doing the talk shows, charming white audiences, showing up in living rooms across America while still holding on to that quiet confidence that meant everything to black folks watching. Balancing all of that, not easy. And truthfully, behind all the gloss, things were getting messy. He was drinking more, hooking up with women constantly. His marriage to Dolores, a singer and dancer, crumbled under the weight of it.
We backed him, but we were just surprised that he had made the decision to marry because it was just so sudden. We wasn't expecting it.
And when she died in a car crash not long after, Sam handled it quietly, paid the bills, paid for the funeral, kept moving. He ended up marrying Barbara, someone he'd known since way back, and they had a daughter, Linda. But even with a family and a home, he was still spiraling. Fame had cracked the ceiling wide open for him, but it also left him kind of floating, like nothing was grounded anymore. By the early 60s, Sam had started thinking about the next move. Hollywood, acting, maybe hosting, something bigger than just music. He had the looks, the presence, and a massive fan base. If the timing had lined up right, he probably would have become a screen legend too. But then, everything changed. One night, he left home to grab dinner and drinks with a business contact at Martoni's, a go-to spot for music folks in LA. At some point that night, he met a woman named Elisa. She was 22. They hung out, had drinks, and later drove off together in his Ferrari. What happened after that? That part never really added up.
I love you, 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 I love you.
It all unraveled in the early hours of that night, in a rundown little motel on the wrong side of LA. The official version. Sam showed up with a girl named Elisa, and not long after, he was gone, shot by the motel's manager, Bertha. He was only 33. The night had started like plenty before it. Sam was out in Hollywood, looking sharp, feeling good, dropping bills like they were nothing. He hit Martoni's with his producer Al and Al's wife, laughing, eating, moving like someone with time to spare. Sometime that night, he met Elisa. Young, pretty, someone new. Whatever they talked about was enough for her to leave with him.
Sam had received a phone call that brought him to that motel with the girl.
He told his friends he'd catch up with them at another spot. That never happened. Instead, he pulled up to the Hacienda Motel with Elisa, a cheap place with a sketchy rep. He signed in under a fake name. According to Bertha, nothing about Elisa's body language screamed trouble when they showed up. She just stood there while Sam got the keys.
She claimed she didn't know who he was, which is a stone-ass lie. Everybody knew Sam, especially that side of town.
From there, everything gets murky. Elisa told cops things got ugly in the room, that Sam got pushy, ripped her clothes, wouldn't let her leave. She said she locked herself in the bathroom, then made a run for it, grabbing both her stuff and his. She told police she ran blocks barefoot until she found a phone booth and called for help. saying she'd been taken against her will. That was her version. But nothing that came after made the story any clearer. Back in that motel room, Sam came out of the bathroom to a ghost town. No girl, no money, no clothes, just confusion, and a single shoe. He threw on his jacket and rushed out half-dressed, thinking he'd been set up or that something bad had happened to Elisa. He ran straight to the motel office, yelling, banging on the door, trying to get answers. Bertha, the manager, later told cops she tried to calm him down. But when he kicked in the door and came at her, things got messy.
She said Sam came to her door with only a jacket on.
She said he grabbed her. They wrestled. She broke free, grabbed a gun from behind the desk, and fired 3 shots. 2 missed. 1 didn't. Even then, she claimed he kept coming, so she reached for a broom and started swinging.
After she shoots him, and he proclaims, "Lady, you shot me," he still comes after her, whereupon she grabs some kind of a large stick, and it was a large broom handle or something, and she proceeds to beat him until he collapses.
The scene was weird. His car was still running outside, driver's door wide open, bottle of scotch in the seat. His body was on the office floor. The cash he'd been flashing earlier, gone. All that was left in his clip was just over $100. Elisa's purse supposedly had a single $20.
And this prostitute, I think that they got paid off and were in cahoots with somebody.
Later that morning, Elisa strolled back in and told the cops she was the one who called. Case closed. The coroner called it self-defense. LAPD didn't dig further. No charges. That was it. On paper, anyway. But people weren't buying it. Bertha went on TV a few days later, all calm, no visible bruises, not even a scratch. And meanwhile, Sam's body told a different story. His head was banged up. His hands looked broken. It wasn't giving quick struggle or one shot and done. It looked brutal. Etta, who saw his body before the funeral, later said it looked like he'd been destroyed, like something way worse had gone down than what anyone was saying.
Is how do you resolve this mystery?
Then things got even weirder. The bullet that killed Sam somehow vanished from evidence. The gun's ownership? Foggy at best. The whole story was full of holes, and none of it really made sense. Still, it didn't stop the lawsuits. Bertha filed one against Sam's estate for emotional and physical damage. She wanted $200K. Barbara, Sam's wife, fired back with a countersuit asking for funeral costs. The jury ended up siding with Bertha. Kinda. She got $30K, way less than what she came for. Some folks called it justice. Others called it a cover-up with a payout. But that wasn't the end of it. The theories kept coming. Some people swore Sam had been lured. Others believed he didn't even die at the motel, that his body was dumped there after whatever really happened. One name came up a lot: Alan Klein, Sam's manager. Right before Sam died, Alan had somehow locked in control of Sam's publishing and money. To some, it looked like a smart business move. To others, it looked like motive. Sam was just starting to own everything, and then he was gone. Too fast, too clean, too convenient.
I get it out of him, and he was making money, and he was making the headway, and he was making it without them.
There's a reason people still side-eye the official story about how Sam died. Something just didn't add up. The whole thing felt patched together, like everyone involved was trying a little too hard to make it make sense. Too many gaps, too many convenient details, and way too many people who had something to lose if Sam kept doing what he was doing.
Oh, you send me, darling.
See, by that point, Sam wasn't just a big name. He was a problem for the people who ran things. Not because he was out here wildin' or acting crazy, but because he was calculated, polished. Everybody loved him, and he could play any room. Black, white, didn't matter. But behind the charm, Sam was playing chess. While a lot of folks were just happy to be famous, he was out here building an actual empire. And he wasn't quiet about it either. With Roy and JW in his corner, he started his own label, not for the aesthetics, but to give upcoming black talent a real shot without being at the mercy of the same folks who'd been playing gatekeeper for years. Acts like the Valentinos, Mel, Johnny, even the Sims twins, he gave them their shot. And he didn't stop there. He launched his own publishing setup so that artists could finally stop getting finessed out of their money. This wasn't some ego trip. Sam had a plan. He was doing what artists today still dream about, keeping his stuff, putting other people on, and stacking long-term wins. And when someone starts shaking tables like that, especially back then, let's just say, not everybody was clapping. Sam was still technically signed to RCA, but that's when Alan slid in. He was one of those money guys who always acted like he had artists' backs, said he could cut better deals, fix the fine print, all that. And with his help, Sam pulled off something major. He got a setup that let him keep his own recordings. They even made a new company, named it after Sam's daughter. To hold the rights, RCA would just be the delivery guy. But what Sam didn't realize was that Alan had quietly made himself the boss of that company. So yeah, Sam built the whole operation, but Alan secretly held the keys. And then, just like that, Sam was gone.
It ended up that Alan Klein actually owned Tracy, whereas Sam didn't, and Sam was under the impression that he owned it.
No court case, no proper follow-up, nothing. Everyone just moved on. But some things didn't sit right.
After she shoots him and he proclaims, "Lady, you shot me," he still comes after her, whereupon she grabs some kind of a large stick, and it was a large broom handle or something, and she proceeds to beat him.
For starters, Bertha's version of events kept flipping. Said it was a brutal fight, but when she popped up on TV not long after, her face was spotless. No bruises, no cuts, not even a scratch. Meanwhile, Sam's body told a whole different story. Huge knot on his head, hands torn up. His face looked like he'd been stomped out, not just hit once or twice. Etta saw his body and said it straight up looked like he'd been jumped. That wasn't from some back and forth with a hotel clerk. Something else went down. And then there was the money. Earlier that night, Sam had been out with a fat wad of cash, letting it show. But when the cops showed up, practically empty. Just some loose change, a beat-up money clip with barely $100 and a bottle of scotch chilling in his car, with the engine still running. Elisa's purse? One single 20. That didn't add up. So where'd the rest of it go? But forget the cash for a second. What really got people suspicious was who came out on top after Sam was gone. The label he started? Barbara shut it down instantly. All the young black artists he'd been mentoring were left with nothing overnight. The publishing rights he'd set up to protect folks from getting screwed, sold off in bits, and that company he made to lock in his legacy somehow ended up completely under Alan's control. Yep, the same guy who finessed his way into the top spot without Sam even knowing. And the same guy who kept owning Sam's catalog for years after the funeral. That wasn't just business. That was a clean sweep. And then there was everything else Sam had been cooking up. He wasn't just making music. He was getting loud about black freedom. He'd been hanging out with Malcolm, talking moves with Muhammad Ali, trying to link up artists and athletes to shift power in real time. He was being watched, and not just by music execs, by people who took notes for a living.
I'm saying you talking about me about some draft, and all of you white boys are breaking your neck to get to Switzerland and Canada and London. I'm not going to help nobody get something my Negroes don't have. If I'm going to die, I'll die now, right here fighting you.
One of the only black cops in LA back then straight up said the case was never taken seriously. They brushed it off like Sam was just some random guy who ended up in the wrong place. But Muhammad didn't buy that. He said if Sam had been white, if he was someone the system actually valued, things would have looked a whole lot different. And he wasn't wrong. Back then, if you were black, loud, rich, and organizing, the FBI had your name on a board. And Sam, he ticked all the boxes. He wasn't out here begging to be included. He was flipping the table, building his own, and inviting the whole crew. That kind of energy made the suits nervous. Just weeks after everything went down, RCA dropped "A Change Is Gonna Come." Sam had written it after being turned away from a motel for being black. It was nothing like his usual tracks. No charm, no gloss, none of the radio-friendly swagger. It was raw. You could feel the weight in every word, like he was grieving and dreaming at the same time. He never got to see it hit the world, never got to feel the shift it sparked. But that song? That was his final say. It became more than music. It became the heartbeat of a movement. And that's what makes it all sting even more. Because losing Sam wasn't just about how he died. It was about what he stood for and what he was about to do next. He thought he was setting himself up for freedom. Turns out the whole game was wired against him. The catalog he built, gone. The label, gone. His voice, still here but almost buried. That's why people never stopped digging. Not because he was famous, but because everything pointed to something deeper. Sam wasn't just taken from the world. He was taken right when he was becoming dangerous in the best way. And maybe that was exactly the point.